हेलो। हाँ सर। ओके ठीक है। ओके ठीक है। ठीक। ओके। A very good afternoon to everyone present here. Today we are going to discuss about the seventh block that is based on that is on actually on ecological anthropology. Ecological anthropology at the terms indicates that it is a subfield of anthropology, but its understanding is from an evolutionary perspective. When you see how men interact with the physical environment from an evolutionary perspective. So in this block, we are having actually three units. First one is the fundamentals of ecology. Second one is on adaptation to environment. And the third one is epidemiological anthropology. So when you speak about fundamentals of ecology, many of you are aware that in your undergraduate level, in whatever form, whether you are student of any field, it is mandatory that you have undergone a paper on environmental studies. So as you know that actually ecology is a term developed in 1866. It is study about the oikos, means a house or a surroundings, how living organisms interacted their means the physical environment. So, and it was in 1935, we have a concept of ecosystem. That was another British scholar, A.G. Tensler, introduced. Ecosystem is the unit of ecology. And normally, an ecology, when you speak about the interaction of living organism with their surroundings, you, one can have an understanding at a organism level, at a population level, at a community level, at each ecosystem level, at a biosphere level. And when you speak about environment, we know that it constitutes your lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere, land, water, and the air. And that sphere which gives space for the living world, that is known as a biosphere. So Earth is at the biosphere. So you can study at every level. Okay, so you can study even organism. When I'm speaking, you can study the starts from the even uh, atomic level, molecular level, cell level, tissue level, organ level, organic system level, and organism level. So over the years, our understanding has also evolved. So this particular paper, ecological anthropology, I don't think so. It is very familiar, other than anthropology. But what is the biggest contribution of anthropology to the world of understanding our complex interaction? Ours means human interaction with environment is cultural ecology, developed by Julian Stewart in 1960s. Those who have gone through the evolutionary school of thought and the new evolutionism, this is the concept. Three scholars: V. Gordon Child, Leslie White, and uh, your uh, Julian Stewart. So these particular aspects, when I uh, when this block was actually framed, the first paragraph actually speaks about genus Homo. So Homo, when I talk about genus Homo, means we are speaking about Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and the emergence of Homo sapiens. And that's why you will find that when you look at the evolution of other primate, that's back 65 million years before present. So you will find that the habitat is undergoes tremendous change. So we can say that primate radiation. So it means that the present human forms also passes through various stages of its adapt adaptation to various, use a variety of survival strategies to exploit and exceptionally broad range of ecoregions and dietary components. Because man is the only project on International Biosphere Project, uh, uh, and under that Biosphere Project, there is a big second unit of this block, that is adaptability, plasticity, acclimatization. So these are your undergraduate. So it is human how they are interacting with their surroundings at the rate of culture or society. So uh, what makes man? The fundamental question is that what makes humans to survive in all adverse conditions. You will go on exploring the flora and fauna. You will find humans are very unique. It is because of their adaptive strategy, and the adaptability is of it is primarily interpreted to encompasses only the response in a phenotype. Phenotype means external, emerging by the action of a environment upon a given genotype. How? Because we will come across actually the peoples living in polar region like the Eskimos, people living in high altitude, the Tibetans. Okay, so you will find people in water, people in caves, people in mountains, people in extreme hot, extreme cold. So this is possible because the response of the human phenotype emerging by the action of environment upon a given genotype. And the similarly, you will find that apart from this physical or genetical, you can say, mm, uh, uh, you can say response. You will find that what is more important is that non biological response, like a, you will find that economic, social, institutional. So many factors plays an important role as far as the human environment interaction is concerned. Okay, and finally, we will have to study about the uh, that is a epidemiological anthropology, which speaks also about it is not merely the change in environment, change in a disease. If you go on prehistoric population with agricultural society, industrial society, and present society, epidemiological transactions, human has passed through various stages and phases. Now, coming to your first unit, fundamentals of ecology, where we are supposed to know about the basic concept, as you are all aware that it is a ecology, the scientific study of the relationship between living organism and their environment. So, uh, it contains a set of concepts and principles derived from evolutionary theory, and that are used to explain the adaptation and evolution of animal and plant population and communities in response to various conditions of resources availability presented by diverse, dynamic, and changing environment. So you have to understand from a time and space perspective. Okay, ecological methods and ecological principles, as you all know that biotic you have a biotic component, you have abiotic component. Biotic components include your producer, consumer, and decomposers. And the consumers first, second, third, you are having different trophic levels. And also how an ecosystem is balanced, it is through the process of food chain, food web, energy. Okay, one ecosystem will be replaced by another ecosystem. So you will find Lindeman's 10% law. These are all at the schooling level you have already completed. But today, what is more important that you have to just, in the context of a human being, then you have to understand, you have to find out that what is, you see, evolutionary linkages. So, so that's why you will find that energy flow, feeding relations, same is food in one human society is strongly rejected by another human. Humans are same, but you will not find such kind of response. That is very rare in case of other plants and animals. Food is the, when you speak about feeding relationship, resource attainment, behaviors, material cycle, population dynamics. So these are all actually you will find that the basic concepts and principles when you speak about ecology, particularly human ecology in particular. So now coming to the development of human ecology, when you look at the human ecology, its roots are in geography. Okay, so uh, he, human ecology is the systematic application of ecological concept, principle, theories, and research methods to study human population and communities. Okay, human ecology examines the way human resource relationship affect the adaptation to diverse type of ecosystem such as desert, arctic, forest, and others. So, because it is the man environment or habitation and his interaction with that uh, environment. So that's why it is very unique when you talk about human, because you will find in there in all adverse conditions. So uh, human survivability is primarily determined by environment. So you will find that actually to understand the responses of organism to critical environment can be um, you can go back to the antiquity. So, but the contemporary human ecology has been expressed since 18th century by Adam Smith, Malthus, Thomas Malthus, Charles Albert Darwin, Hobbes. So, it is believed that actually the concept of human ecology first used in geography by Huntington in 1916. Ecology was developed in 1866 by Ernest Haeckel. In between ecosystem, you will find that it was developed in 1935 hesitantly, but human ecology is developed in 1916, and later it was adopted in sociology, but anthropology in 1960s. So it is a very young and also very you can see it is a scope and relevance is very high as far as ecological anthropology is concerned. And though it has its roots in geography, but it is having a strong association with other disciplines, both the biological, physical, and social and behavioral sciences. Sociology, for example, adopted it in 1921. Okay, so in this way, human ecology has grew, because prior to that, there are two concepts. One is determinism, another is possibilism. Okay, so environments with rest, when you look at it's a theoretical journey as far as human ecology is concerned. So while you can define human ecology as the study of spatial and temporal relations of human beings affected by selective, destructive, and accommodative force of environment. So this is a very general statement. But coming to anthropological perspective of human ecology, primarily deals with the question how man cope with his environment. The coping strategy of humans we often refer to as cultural ecology, or that's why culture has been defined as the man-made part of environment. Culture is the master variable. Since human relations are not mainly biological, therefore, the development of cultural context is necessary. Culture cannot be understood in isolation from the environment in which it is evolved. Contemporarily, social anthropology concerned with the issue related to exploitation of the environment, utilization of resources, energy transformation in a cultural setting. But on the other hand, economists view ecology as a subset of economy. Okay, so the economy is disrupting and destroying Earth's natural resource and environmentally sustainable economy. So sustainable development goals concept that also you will find that all last page development of 20th 21st century 20th century. So the environmental sustainable economy requires that the principle of ecology establish the framework for the formation of economic policy. So Malthus is a concept that was actually borrowed by Darwin in his work of original species by means of uh, natural selection. The first postulation is the enormous fertility that leads to struggle for existence. Similarly, so uh, these are the if you see from economic perspective. So initially it has started from geography, but if you go on, if you're exploring this particular area of human ecology, it has a multidisciplinary approach. Now coming to the methods of studying human ecology, it utilizes methods acquired from other classical disciplines. That is that it is synthesized and incorporates. So it is neither exclusively an analysis of individual object nor synthesis of problems. So it is like unlike other discipline or scientific science, you can say disciplines, it has the observation and recording of the state of nature and society, which in instinctively recognize the interrelationship between organism and their environment. So monitoring is also there, and for example, inferences in epidemiology, when implicit as a part of human ecology, are based on healthy people rather than unhealthy people, or on population rather than individuals. So that you have to understand. So what is more important that it is not disease, it is the normal human beings. It is not individual, it is the populations. So the characterization of an event in the context of environment condition provide an opportunity for estimating what is the average, normal and regular. So by doing so, what you have to get, you can estimate what is the average, what is the normal, and what is the regular. So in anthropology, monitoring consists of recording of individual response to similar environmental condition and intra-population differences, intra and inter. So you will find that I have already uttered certain names. People living in high altitude. There are roughly more than 10 million people are living in high altitude. You can speak about Andes Mountain. You can talk about Tibetan living in 4,500 meter in Tibet. Or so you will find that actually uh, in anthropology, monitoring consists of recording individual response to similar environment conditions and intra-population difference. Same habitat, different people, they have different responses, or different environments or habitats, different. They are adapting to that. Thus, the specific response of different races or ethnic groups remains in the field of classical anthropology, and the old approach have been modernized in the light of concept of major genes or complex linked genes or populations. So it implies that today, when you look at this, our understanding about the coping strategy, it is primarily begins with your molecular level of understanding, how it has been, means genetic adaptation of Tibetans to high altitude responses. Okay, so what you have to, for which you have to know that what are the high altitude environment. It is not same with the coastal environment where we are now living in Odisha. So it is primarily not in a high altitude, even though our Mahendragiri is not high altitude. High altitude means 2,500 meter above the sea level. So in Odisha, highest elevation will be nearly about nearly over 1,000 meter. Okay, so you will not experience any mountain sickness or mountain, you can say, the limitation that you will find when you will reach in a high altitude. So these are some of the differences when you look at the old anthropological anthropological or classical anthropological understanding of a human population with the various environmental responses versus the contemporary anthropological understanding. So you will find that that's why adaptation, when you talk about, it's a permanent change, but it is a very complex interaction. Okay, so you will find that it operates at a different level. At a genetic adaptation, the evolution of advantageous characteristics. For example, those who are taking alcohol, so you will find that culture, gene, and their food habits. You will find that there are, you can say, populations where you will find that consumption of alcohol is very common. So you will find out what genetic adaptation they are having. So people have now identified the means LDH2 gene that is responsible for the protective advantage. People living in high altitude, they are having a special type of protection to adverse oxygen. Means they, you will not get this oxygen plenty and pressure is very low, barometric. So similarly, another is developmental plasticity, developmental adaptation, that is known as a plasticity. Developmental adaptation is that it is a programmed, you can say, from your birth to adolescent to old age. You will find that at 40 you will get have a senile decay. So you will have a milk teeth, that will you have permanent teeth. So this is known as developmental adaptation. So long-term acclimatization. Pradyumna, can you mute? Pradyumna Mahanti. Yes, please. Thank you. So, um, another way, one is genetic adaptation, another is plasticity, third is your acclimatization acquired over the years, but reversible under environmental change. For example, you have some assignment, you have moved one climatic, one habitat that is drastically different from your motherland or where you are born and brought up. There you take some time, you will be becoming acclimatized. But when you reverse back, then you will again retain your characteristics. Similarly, you will find seasonal acclimatization, which reverses its during the annual cycle. You will find animals with summer sleep winter seal, hibernation, and also the things. Short-term acclimatization, it manifests in daily or irregular response to the condition. For example, now heat is coming, so we'll go for a very cool. We have to find out cool places, and if extreme hot outside, then we will go to air condition and so many things. They are short-term adaptation, seasonal adaptation, adjustment. You can say long-term acclimatization and genetic adaptation. So this is the level you have to understand. So that the ability to adjust this means the various environment response, the adaptability. Okay, so coming human adaptation or adjustment to different ecosystems. So I have already told you that you can understand ecology is very vast. So ecology it can be studied at various levels. Okay, so that is you can study at a taxonomic level, you can study at a habitat level, you can study level of organization. So organizational hierarchy, when you see, so uh, that I have told you that actually organism, then you will have populations, you have a communities, you have ecosystem, then you have biosphere. Now we will come to that actually human population, putting at the center, and various ecosystem. So human occupies a wide range of habitat from the icy westland of Arctic to the equatorial deserts of North Africa. And while most animal species have become adapted to relatively narrow niche, humans have survived in far-ranging and highly diverse niches. For the sake of, you will find that actually the mechanism of human adaptability, uh, adaptation and adjustment, they are not same terms. So you have to understand they are quite different. Now, adaptation is something very permanent change. Adjustment is the um, immediate response. So change in gene frequency, you can say that it is because of some environmental factors on a population, and that is a adaptation. Human species is able to adjust to wide variety of environmental conditions without undergoing major micro evolutionary change. Such change are termed as adjustment. So when you say that short-term adjustment, that is known as a that is a short-term change, that is a adjustment. So now coming to the another important aspect is that behavioral adjustment. So this is the very unique with the human, which allows humans to survive and also to cope with all adverse conditions. Humans are biologically tropical, as if you see the ladder of human evolution or evolution of primate. So how we have evolved and how this environment has changed. You can recall this entire Cenozoic era. Okay, you have a quaternary and tertiary and quaternary period, and you have a Pleistocene, Holocene epochs. So how this environment changed. So primatology, if you have gone through that literature, it will give you some information about that. So human are biologically tropical, better equipped to survive to hot rather than cold climate. It implies that the cold polar regions are very recently occupied when you compare with the African, you can say, or these tropical regions. They do not possess thick layer of subcutaneous fat or thick fur, which otherwise provide insulation to body against cold. Thus, a substantial portion of cold adaptation in this hostile climate is behavioral. Behavioral adjustment are cultural response of humans to cope with the environmental stresses. So, what is culture? Culture is these are some total of knowledge, art, moral beliefs, or you can say learned behaviors. So, these are the responses. These are cultural, non-biological responses. These adjustments are not inherited from one generation to other, rather it is acquired. So, behavioral adjustment must be made by each generation as newborn infants learn their culture. It includes seeking shelters, using protecting clothing, improving housing, and other technology. India is the best example. North, south, east, west, you will find the food habits, the type of people, the type of environment. We are the color. So Rajasthan is different from Northeast. The South India is different from North India, and you will find that the art, culture, music, dance, housing patterns. So it is very unique actually. So in that case, when you coming to the human housing, you will find that best example is that the igloos made by Eskimos. Okay, and the oldest known human habitation structure was discovered in Olduvai, a site in Africa. Even our student also discovered one site in here, Harirajpur, Bong, and some one locality. In Bhubaneswar, we have dated to 2000 to 3000 years before present. The habitation in this part of the world is primarily circular. Okay, so we have a pit holes, so that only you can visit archaeological site, then you can be able to understand. And Olvega is another important archaeological sites, and it is witnessing many human fossils dates back 2 million years ago. And it's uh, so it is a circular, so the arrangement stones are arranged circular. And when you will find that uh, today you will see also in the contemporary populations also, you will find various of uh, habitation structures. uh, House forms is a reflection of many variables, including the size of the household unit and availability of raw materials. So you will find apartment people are living, people living in Mayurbhanj district, people living in Ganjam district, Ganjam linearly arranged. You will find scattered settlement patterns, settlement housing structures. So it is a dynamic. It is also, you will find that it reflects the household size. It is ritual beliefs, family and clan structure, social organization, way of gaining a livelihood or social relations. So simple one example of a house will give you a lot of information. Similarly, you will find the igloos of the Eskimos. Okay, so this development of house, how have Eskimos has learned the to how to build a house which are the only mean to survive in that adverse condition. The igloo consists of a dome-shaped structure and connected to outside by a tunnels. So those who have gone to that the Eskimo and Eskimos house and the sledge vehicle, okay, heat is produced. So you will find a very interesting if you go through that igloo and the Eskimos, however, the traditional knowledge system of these Eskimos. Okay, apart from many things, we will learn also in social and cultural adjustment. That is killing of elderly, killing of female infants. So killing of the, it is culturally acceptable. So it is unlike in our society we cannot think of, but those who are age old, they killed female babies, they killed aged people, they killed diseased people. So it is another way of, so you can read this also in your material, that will give you some idea about that. Similarly, social response to harsh environment. So Eskimo living in extremely harsh environment uses a number of strategies to reduce the environmental stress. Okay, so I have just given you the idea that people are in this habitat are having a practice of suicide, infanticide, and side in crisis situations. That whenever they face any crisis, they kill the infants, they kill the aged peoples, they include the disease people. Okay, so it is not a crime there, it is a mode of adaptation. Similarly, accommodatory adjustment. So acclimatatory refers to reversible physiological adjustment to environmental stresses. For instance, instances of acclimatization have been observed in the three environment like Arctic, desert, broadly, and you can take biomes like this: Arctic, desert, and high altitude. Arctic is the sphere of one of the most stressful habitat occupied by humans. It was inhabited relatively late in human prehistory. That I have told you that by nature the modern men are mostly their bodies designed for hot environment, and the people those who are there right now in Arctic region, roughly 40,000 to 6,000 years before present, recently occupied. Modern men evolved 2 lakhs years before present. So the primary environmental stress in the Arctic is a very low temperature. How human encounter with low temperature? So you will find that actually there are various means and ways how it has been there. When the core temperature falls within 34.4 degrees centigrade, hypothermia occurs, and at 29.4 degrees centigrade temperature, regulating ability of the hypothalamus in the brain, which controls the, is impaired, resulting in death. So so you have to understand that also acclimatization and extreme cold. The new human body at rest begins to combat against hypothermia. Hypothermia at air temperature of approximately 31 degrees centigrade. This temperature is known as the critical temperature. Consequently, the individual reduces the loss of heat from body to the environment and produces heat to increase the body temperature. So a major mechanism of conserving heat in is peripheral vasoconstriction and constriction of the capillaries below the skin. So you will find a distribution of sweat or distribution of hairs. Okay, so many things you will find. It is not uniform. The shape of the body, linear body, globular body. Okay, so similarly, mechanism of heat loss. So humans survive more efficiently in hot and arid climate than in cold climate. This is generally due to lack of body hair, which otherwise act as a insulating material. So if you compare ourselves with the primates, and the amount of body hair is very less, or if we are having very few population, you will find at least some distribution of body hair. So human have a greater capacity to sweat the than any other mammals. Means you will find the sweat distribution of sweat glands in the skin. So in the hot climate, as in desert, it is essential for human body need to get rid of excess heat that is being absorbed by the body. In general, heat can be lost in any one of the four ways: conduction, convection, radiation, and evaporation. So these are the four ways how heat is released. Second thing, that acclimatization to desert habitat, that is also discussed in detail in the unit 2. Acclimates to desert means hot climate. Um, it is exposure of to heat and arid climate, individual requires some adjustment. Meanwhile, the sweat glands become sensitive and produce sweat. So that immediate response for to make our body to the sweating, and it comes from the sweat glands. So there are this long-term adjustment, short-term adjustment. Okay, hot humid climate, hot dry climate. So physiological responses involve vasodilation. So that is the of the capillaries under the skin, allow your body to cool. Okay, so people living in desert areas, you will find Sahara and also Kalahari Desert. Okay, so this is one aspect, and adjustment to high altitude, as I've already told you that um, uh, less than 1% of the world population live in a high altitude. When you attain the high 2,500 meter, you will experience there is a scarcity of oxygen. Find that breathing problem, mountain sickness, all these things will be started. So if you visit Ladakh, you will visit Himalayan range, so you will experience these things, and you need an adjustment. Oxygen support, you will move. And those also people who are also mountaineers, they are also want to climb Mount Everest, they have to undergo a lot of training program. So in order to this adverse condition, the oxygen enter into the bloodstream by approximately 300 millions of alveoli of the lungs. So alveoli are small sacs that are richly endowed with blood capillaries, that in the lungs unit of that gases exchange in the lungs, that is alveoli. Okay, so when an individual inhabits near a level, bracket to higher mountain, he or she will probably notice an increase in the breathing rates because of lack of oxygen, which may reach twice that of at a sea level. The increased breathing rate brings more oxygen in the alveoli and increase the partial pressure of oxygen in the blood. So hyperventilation. This condition is known as hypoxia, deficit of oxygens. So similarly, genetic and non-genetic factors in climatic adjustment. So that can be determined by studying the twins. Okay, so various body shape, size, fat deposition, growth pattern, skeletal and physiological maturation by determined by genetic conditions to a large extent, but total environmental factors. Um, you will find that population differences rest undoubtedly on the distinct genotype or a multifactorial recombination, nose shape or the ratio of limbs length to trunk length remains unaffected by change in environment. For example, people living in polar region, people living in equatorial region, you will find that nose shape, that body shape, linear body build, nasal shape you will find also, because where you have to heat conserve, where you have to heat release. There are something which these are some physiological or genetic makeup which cannot be changed with the environment, but there are some factors which are changed because of environment. So this is the block one. Now coming to your block two, sorry, unit two, that is on adaptation. So adaptation is a permanent change. You have to understand. We have already discussed about the term difference between adaptation and adjustment. Adaptation and adjustment are quite different. One is permanent, another is temporary. So you have to understand what is in a habitat, what is the climatic adaptation, what are the climatic stress, and how man's physiological response and acclimatization. This is the particular block which unit which is actually give you that the biological and non-biological components of different so this is actually primarily you will find that uh, major domain of ecological anthropology. Whatever we have discussed, that is just an entry into ecological anthropology. But what is central to ecological anthropology is that human adaptation. Whatever adaptation is the cultural mode of adaptation, apart from the genetic and other biological adaptation or physiological adaptation. You will have another that very strong tool which allow us to survive, that is in all conditions, that is culture. So first you have to understand the biological and non-biological component of different habitats occupied by human population all over the world. Second, facilitate an understanding of the influence of the thermal environment on human beings. Third, you will have to understand on human adaptation to environmental stresses. So ecological anthropology, as I have told you that it studies primarily the dynamic interference between humans and their sociocultural and biophysical environment. So when you speak about adaptation, because you have to understand that um, uh, when you talk about the human populations, you will find that uh, uh, how an environment shapes its socio-cultural, economic, and political life. So each transhuman, for example, people live in nomadic humans, for example, hunter-gatherers, you will not find everywhere. So you will find people living in forest areas, you will find hunter-gatherers. People in high altitude, you will find transhumans. So these environments, then political, economy, socio-cultural practices. Similarly, you have to understand what is the basic concept that has been, as far as adaptation is concerned, that is the physiological, cultural, and genetic adaptation that allow individuals and populations to adjust to their environment in which they live. That is the um, it is a combination of all the you can say factors, physiological, cultural, and genetic. That so when you speak about environment, definitely it will include both biotic and abiotic conditions, and actually, and there you will have to see that actually how uh, more specifically, environment into which life penetrates is termed as a biosphere. So, lithosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere, and a segment of that, each one of them is constitute a biosphere. Sphere, that part of lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere, where you will find the existence of life. Okay. Now, coming to habitat, you have to understand the concept. Is a place where plants or animal live or organism live, often characterized by either by dominant of plant forms or physical characteristics, or by habitat, a set of physical and chemical conditions, space and climate. So with respect to physical, with respect to life forms, you can say the habitat. So there are different type of habitats. You are aware of that: equatorial forest, tropical forest, and shrubs, desert and dry lands, temperate forests, Mediterranean shrubs, temperate grasslands, and boreal lands, polar lands, mountain habitats. So you will find that actually geographically different habitats and their presence in different continents: Africa, Asia, Europe, America, when you North America and South America and Australia. So you will find that equatorial forest, except Europe, you will find everywhere. So similarly, tropical forest and swamp also except Europe you will find everywhere. Tropical grassland except Europe you will find everywhere. Africa, Asia, America, and Australia. D- Uh, Desert and dry lands it is also same. But when you talk about temperate forest, it will find you will not find in Africa. Most of the other continents you will find this. Similarly, temperate grassland except Australia you will find everywhere. So tundra you will find except Africa everywhere. So so these are the environments, habitats, geographically how. Now coming to the population distribution in habitats, you will find broadly you can classify in two contrasting habitat: tropical forest and shrublands, temporal mixed forest lands. So you will find that population distribution in habitats that has been narrated given in your material that the relative density. So most density, highly dense population you will find in the temperate mixed forest lands. That is 5.6%. Population percent of the total present world population you will find 39%. Okay, so heavily populated. You will find it of Asia and it's a Asian countries. Then the type of economy: food gatherer, hunter, herdsman, pastoralist, nomads, simple cultivator, advanced cultivator. So when you talk about food gatherers, they primarily engaged in collecting of food and small games. So you will find in Odisha also you will find most of the people living in the tribal communities living in Dandakaranya and Mayurbhanj and Keonjhar and Koraput, these areas. So some of them are engaged in food collecting. Hunters, hire hunters, so trapping and hunting in addition to gathering. So hunting gathering communities, you will find Jarwas, Songes, these are the communities in Andaman Lionhead, still they are having that level. Herdsmen and pastoralism, so Koyas in Koraput, Malkanagiri district, and also the Tibetans, the Todas, they are the Nilgiri Hills. They are the daily livelihood primarily centered in herds of cattle. They may also have a flock of sheep and goats. Nomads, they do not have any fixed habitat. Seasonal cycles, particularly Himalaya range people move from top means extreme cold condition, they will come to the bottom, and then when there is a hot season, they will move off. So simple cultivators, so and advanced cultivators like Punjabs and Haryana. So you can say that in urban so use modern technology, and there are people who are still use this simple technology. So this is the way you can look at the geographically different habitat, people, and their economic activities. Similarly, climate adaptation, we have already discussed about this thermal environment. Thermal environment means extreme hot. So climate or weather are the term used to denote the state of the atmosphere. Weather is a atmospheric state in a given time, and plus climate is the locally locals weather as observed over long period. So short term, long term. This way, these two terms, climate and weather, is differentiated geographically. The characteristics of atmospheres make up the weather and the climate are recorded at a regular basis. So what you will find that actually, when you find that when the disturbed homeotherms affects the body efficiency, the adaptive relation of the human body with the thermal environment, you will find that in three ways. First is physiological adjustment in the heat regulatory, metabolic, and circulatory system, make it possible to work and survive in wide variety of environment. Second, specialized physiological and anatomical adaptive response based on particular genotype are also observed among these people living in thermal region. Cultural and social adjustment engage the provisions of shelter, clothings, warmth, and ventilations. Okay, the type of you can say responses like a nutritional requirement, then the institutionalized in Malinowski, but not been clear. So you will find that various mode of cultural adjustment, behavioral adjustment. So the efficient adaptation of a human body to climate change is necessary for attainment of body comfort, performance of a habitual physical work without undue fatigue, performance of skilled work calling for alternate alertness and dexterity within minimum errors, attainment of normal growth and development, ability to reproduce successfully. These are the basic requirements why you need um, efficient adaptation. Okay, so this is thermal adaptation. So with the extreme hot, extreme cold, so is there are we have already discussed that how bodily characteristics affecting the thermal response like radiation, uh, convections, conduction, and evaporation. Similarly, there are two rules one can see, that is Bregman's rules and Allen's rules. They are two great biologists. They have come up with one generalization. They are popularly known as Bregman's rules, that was introduced in 1847, which state that within the same species of one-blooded animal, population having less bulky individuals are more often found in warmer climate near the equator, while those with greater bulk or mass are found farther from the equator in colder regions. So you will compare with the Eskimos in um, living in equator in polar region and the Maasais of Kalahari Desert in Africa. So you will find one is linearly built, another is globularly built. So similarly, you will find that it is all about surface area and surface volume. There are biological, physiological, genetic makeup that you need a body which have to release the heat, make the body clean, so larger surface area. But in polar arctic region, you need to conserve. So you will surface area. So it depends on area and volume relationship. So your linear body versus globular body. So this has been very nicely narrated in the block. You can have to go through it. Similarly, you will find that actually um, you have another uh, zoologist, A. J. Allen, applied this principle to body limbs and other appendages. Allen actually stated that among the one-blooded organism, individual in a population of the same species living in warmer climate near the equator tend to have a longer limbs. The Maasais are a linear body with the longer limbs than do population living from the equator in the colder environment. Okay, Pradina, please switch off. Yes, and thank you. So I think that when I have told you that the surface area and the area and volume relationship, you will find that large surface area for evaporation, you have a linear body, and a globular body you will find in the Eskimos, in the people living in the equator. They are having fatty, bulky, short stature. And Allen's rule say that people living in warm-blooded animals, those who are living in the equator regions, are having longer limbs, upper and lower limbs, than the you can say animals living in the equatorial region. So these are two generalizations. Similarly, climatic stress and man's physiological response and acclimatization. Hot climatic adaptation response to heat. The instant physiological response to overheating is a compensatory increase in heat dissipation from the body, accomplished mainly through adjustment of cardiovascular system followed by sweating. There is increased flow of blood through skin due to vasodilation to start with. Due to additional strain, there is an elevated cardiac output accompanied by the increased pulse rate. The heart brought to the surface, thus elevate the skin temperature, facilitating dissipation of heat to the surrounding by convection and radiation. So this is the how this happened. So you will see that actually total number of sweat glands of adult males. So if you compare with the Indians, Dutch, British, Europe, West African, Busmans, so you will find that it is that is given in means uh, 1.51. Okay, in millions, 1.5 millions among the Hindus, among the Indian 1.69 millions. Dutch it is less, British is again high. So European is 1.75 millions, 1.6 millions. So how do you find that? It is a it is it is actually the density and distribution of glands have been found to be almost similar in different population, and and is decrease in orders. Upper limb, dorsum of hand, forearm, upper arm, lower arm. So how these were distributed in the body, and number of sweat glands where you will find the sweating. So European living in Europe dots, they are living primarily in the when it has been estimated among the adult males among Europeans, Indian, Hindus, and West Africa, you will find that the distribution also vary across the population with respect to their limbs. So trunk, hand. So this is because of, you will find that it is a response to the high thermal responses. So acclimatization to heat, repeated exposure to heat result in acclimatization, enhancing tolerance to work under heat stress. In a laboratory experiment, the subject were able to work for hours, 4 hours on the fifth day of exposure, whereas they gave up after less than an hour on the first day, accompanied by better circulatory performance. Okay, so you will find that the genus Homo in tropical region, Homo sapiens have occupied diverse tropical and equatorial habitat. Acclimatization as a consequence of physiological change enable individual to inhabit wide variety of hot environment. This is evident from the uh, you will find that the habitat, that population distribution with regard to habitat, genetic selection of various bodily character from life for life in diverse climatic conditions superimposed on physiological plasticity. So you have a plasticity, that is a developmental adaptation versus the genetic selection. So you will not find the same type of distribution of Europeans, Indians, and Africans with respect to glands and sweat glands. Similarly, cold climate adaptation. So it is just reverse. Actually, you have to conserve the heat. Okay, and so on exposed to cold climate, climatization, increased tolerance to cold develop gradually. Increased heat production and conservations reduces the extent of fall in the rectal temperature. So the main regulating center is the hypothalamus. On severe exposure to cold, physiological and metabolic process improve to maintain thermal equilibrium, accounting for bodily comfort. For example, newcomers to Arctic region will wear all their available clothes at the onset, but as air temperature falls further, no protection is sought. Later, they often wear less at work or will while asleep or at sleep. So it has been observed that members on exposure expedition who went the great who spent the greater part of their time indoors suffers frostbite. As to frostbite, these are the you can say mountain sickness, frostbite. These are the high altitude and cold region. You can say injuries. So people, so once you will move to high altitude, once you move to cold regions, gradually you have to acclimatize, then you will work normal. So immediately you cannot, from polar region you can move there and you will do this. So there are many examples. So you can see the bushmen of Kalahari and the Australian aborigines sleep in extremely cold condition with a single covering and a small fire protection. Okay, so you will find also in Odisha, those people are living in even little bit higher, I mean, see Eastern Ghats. You will find there the body, the house were built and how they give little bit fire. So very interesting. If you visit Kutia, traditional Kutia habitation in Belghar area, then you will find that actually very interesting. So these are different mode of adaptation, biological as well as cultural. So you will find that. Uh, High altitude is another important. Approximately 10 million people live approximate elevation of 3,600 meter to 4,000 meter. I have already told you that in Odisha we do not have that height. Only Devamali is nearly about 900 meter to 1,000 meter height from the sea level. So when you move high altitude, you will find various. You can find that burden of physical and physiological. You can say stresses. Life at a high altitude imposes a complex ecological stress of low barometric pressure, which act by lowering the oxygen and carbon dioxide pressure in the inspired air. Cold, low moisture content of the air, and intense radiation. So radiation is very high in high altitude. oxygen is very low, the temperature is very cold, so wind, and you will not find rough trains, you will not find plain lands, and so these are the higher muscular activities, demands higher muscular activities. So lower barometric hypoxic environment. Okay, otherwise you will find that so an altitude of 2,400 to 3,000 meter and above, oxygen demand during physical work is not met, and beyond 4,000 meter, so people will die if they will move immediately from polar means seashore to you will find coastal environment to the high altitude. So Tibet is a very between Tibet, Ladakh, and particularly Himalaya range. So the Tibetans they cultivate their land at about 2,700 to 4,500 meter, and permanent settlements in Andes 5,200 meter, and daily visit of 5,800 meter for mining and pastoralism will with agriculture above 4,000 meter substance. So you will see that how people are living in such advanced conditions, but they those who are from plain land they will move, then they will have a problem, and but acclimatized they will continue. But unlike Serpas, Tibetans, Andes, okay, they in Peru also. So the immediate response to lack of oxygen is an increase to the volume of air required per minute. This condition is known as hypoxia, and you will find that there is a means concentration of hemoglobin is high in those population living in high altitude. Okay, and also their food habit, clothing, housing are quite different. Okay, they are not same like people living in coastal areas or coastal environment where the oxygen is plenty. You will not have a rough trains like a high altitude. You will have no radiation. Okay, so population at a high altitude, you will find many instances throughout the globe. Not you will find South America, Africa, you will find India. So this is an idea that I have given you that both biological and non-biological responses factors, that is responses for adaptation to various environmental condition is concerned. Now coming to your the third unit, that is devoted to epidemiological anthropology. So definitely you will find that actually it is in the light of ecological anthropology. You have to explore the relations between ecology and disease, and you have to understand what is the spread of it. You will find that infectious disease and also malnutrition, the burden of malnutrition and its and effect of nutritional stresses. So epidemiology, as you all know, that actually recently we have a COVID pandemics. So what you find incident rate, prevalence rate. So epidemiology is often defined as the study, distribution, and determinants of disease and injuries in the human population. It is just you can try to understand the uh, distribution and determinants of disease with respect to population. So, epidemiological anthropology elucidate the etiological factors involved in a disease incident and emphasize on population variation in incidence and occurrence. So, anthropology will speak about in time and space, since human, you can say, evolution until death. So, human growth occurs along a genetically distinct, distinct trajectory, but is influenced by environmental factor, consequently affecting its longevity and health status. So, consequently, disease exhibit the whole spectrum of causation, ranging from hereditary factor, which plays predominant role, to the environment. In many instances, both factors have to be taken into account. We need to consider not only man's physical environment but also his social, cultural, and psychological circumstances. For instance, environmental components of causation lies in lung cancer and digestive degenerative arterial diseases at the in tuberculosis and smallpox. So you will find that there are diseases, and you will find that particularly cancer, you will find it is a behavioral, genetical, both behavioral, genetical. Okay, so distribution of disease as a special manifestation of human variation and ecology can be observed not only at individual level but also at a population level, which exhibit genotypically and phenotypically similar individuals and inhabits more or less the uniform environment. Now, coming to, if you see that epidemiology deals with the prevalence, distribution, and causation of disease, and when you talk about epidemiological transactions, you will find that the disease of a hunting gathering society, the disease of a agricultural society, the disease of a industrial society are not same. And you will find the best example is the insect borne disease were arrived because of arrival of agriculture, and it happened because of human permanent settlement near water bodies, and that also leads to a complex development of various social institutions and complex organizations. So but you will not find same thing in case of hunting gathering society. So industrialized society has given a space apart from this infectious disease to your non-infectious diseases, so non-communicable diseases. So you will find that actually one is your, you can trace that to physical environment. It is the a direct immediate source of injury and ill health. There is consequently a clear geographical distribution of Odisha has experienced that sunstroke. Okay, mountain sickness in high altitude. If someone now because of tourism, if someone wishes to have some high altitude, if someone proceed, then you will suffer immediately on mountain sickness. So similarly, biotic component of the environment harbors pathogenic organisms like bacteria, virus, pathogen. It will have to change with respect to the particular environments. So apart from this, also environmental produced diseases like illness make it they over appearance due to the malabsorption of metabolic and regulatory function during growth, but manifest completely in response to extreme environment. So I have already told you that the picture with respect to the people living having livelihood on hunting and gathering, the hunter-gatherer population will have to have their different disease ecology when you compare with the agricultural society or rural societies, and when you compare it with the urban societies. So there are many examples are given here. And next is your biological responses. There are twofold responses to infectious disease: immediate, which depend on the adaptive flexibility of individual, and long-term response, which become evident after a long period, but it's action specific. Immediate response are the physiological process which contract the effect of invading organism, evident by symptoms and sign of the disease such as inflammation, pain, fever, etc. Prolonged exposure to infection may result into immunological responses. The protein or polysaccharides of the invading organisms act as an agents, antigens, and stimulate the production of antibodies. Once such antibodies are found, they may persist in the body or may rapidly be reinformed during the second infection. Non-infectious disease, the whole complex of environmental factors that biological response, inborn and acquired, must be considered to account for the regional variation. The fact that Negroes are more susceptible to horsebite than Eskimos, or North American Indians, may be attributed to both lack of acclimatization and genetic susceptibilities. So it is obviously that the Eskimos, when they move high altitude, they are already in the cold climate. When they move to high altitude, they will have less force bite than the Negroes. So many diseases have been accorded racial pathology, but the distribution was entirely related to environmental peculiarities. Primary cancers of the liver, common among the Africans, seems to be a sequel of widely prevalent liver cirrhosis. So it is caused by consumption of a diet chronically low in animal protein and rich in carbohydrates since the infancy. So that you can say that how it is related to people, disease, and habitat, and their food habits. Okay. So there are also sickle cell anemia, Rh negative. Rh negative is very less among the Negroes when you compare with the Europeans. Sickle cell anemia is found more among the African and Asians than the Europeans. So similarly, you will see that the ecology of malnutrition, there are two things coming. One is protein calorie malnutrition, is the most common form of malnutrition. Okay, so you will find that the concept of malnutrition, um, it is a deficiency to excess. So it is not the normal deviation from the normal. So that leads to the cellular imbalance between the supply of nutrients and energy and the body demands for them to ensure growth and maintenance and specific functions. So kwashiorkor, a Ghanaian word that is a second child disease. Kwashiorkor is usually associated with the period immediately following weaning, which often take place after the birth of second child. In many parts of the world, especially sub-Saharan African countries, you will find this is the protein energy malnutrition. Another is marasmus, is a derived from Greek word which means withering or wasting. It results from a diet low in both protein and calories. It is more frequent among the children younger than 5 years, but usually soon after weaning, uh, 5 years soon after the weaning. Kwashiorkor and marasmus represent extremely example of malnutrition and growth retardation. Excess amount of nutrients also hazardous to health. For example, excess amount of vitamin D leads to hypercalcemia, characterized by high level of calcium in the blood. It results into sluggish nerves reflex. Okay, obesity also is another big problem that you will find that in advanced industrial society. It is because of excess eating or excess fat accumulation, which may unfavorably affect the head of an individual. The body mass index is more than 30, equivalent or greater than equal to 30. So height for height. So you will find with respect to gender and height and weight, various calculations were there in order to understand the obesity. Now coming to distribution of different de- deficiency diseases. So there are also you will find protein deficiencies predominantly found in South America, Africa, India, and Southeast Asia population. Mineral deficiency predominantly found in North America continent, upper part of Southeast Asian countries, and some African population. The incidence of multivitamin deficiencies in the rampant in Africa, Middle East, and the island of Pacific Ocean. So it is not found in India because the dietary habits in Indian context, the concept of vegetarian diet, the concept of non-vegetarian diet, and the multiple vegetables, proteins that in Indian diets have made them available of multiple vitamins. Whereas people living in high altitude or you can say Himalayan range, they use rock salt. So deficiency of iodine, deficiency of iron in rural India, anemic. So a distribution of deficiency diseases, you will find that endemic goiter. So you will find most in the Himalayan foothills, and those who are using rock salt. So infant mortality and childhood death. Infant mortality means that person that baby who has not attained the fast death. So infant mortality rate in India is very high compared to 80 per 1,000 live births. It is now significantly improved. Prolonged nutritional state, specifically during infancy and preschool age, and measure, although indirect factors leading to infants and early childhood mortality. So that's why we are having integrated child ICDS program. We are having Anganwadi concept. We are having so many concepts, midday meals. So it is to address the issue of death and morbidity. So how to means we attain the normal growth and development. So the various type of nutrition programs were launched by government of India and various states agencies, international agencies also. The resistance to infections in human is adversely affected by malnutrition. The skin and mucosa do not provide effective physical barriers against the infection. Cell-mediated immunity response against bacterial infection get reduced in severely malnourished individuals. So, humoral antibiotics, circulating immunoglobulins levels are usually normal or elevated in malnourished. So, malnourishment will hamper your normal growth and development. Undernutrition and learning abilities. The period of active growth human beings extends from the 30th week of the gestation to the end of the second year of life. Undernutrition during this period appear to adversely affect the development of brain. So that is the consequences that you have to bear. That's why government of India has launched starting from conception till the birth till the growth. Okay, preschool children program, neonatal care, more pregnant women's concept. So nutritional stress in modern society. So prior to Middle Age, rice was used in Southeast Asia and some part of Indian subcontinent maize in Central America, potato in South America, wheat in Southwest Asia, and millet in Africa and part of China. However, during Middle Age, long voyages undertaken by several groups of people leads to worldwide dispersion of new domestic crops and animals. Rice cultivation was brought to Africa. The potato were also spread to other part of the world. Horse, donkey, cattle, ships were introduced into America that provide essential nutrients to many native population. So still we are using the term Bilati Baigan. So it comes from Bilat, Bilati Dala, come from Bilat. So Portuguese introduced chili. So many concepts are there. The black pepper from India went to other part of the world. So black diamond it is termed as. So various type of you will find that domestication of plants and animals will give an information about evolutionary journey and the distribution of you can say various type of nutrients and how it has actually uh, moved over the years. So disruption of traditional diet and introduction of new foodstuffs cause nutrient stress in many societies. It starts with globalization in India. Today, momo is very popular, but it's a very typical food of Tibetans living in high altitudes. So you will Northeast India, it is confined to those areas. But now you see in Odisha, it is very common. The estimate of such a stress in the earlier times is not known completely, but of the what is more important today is that processed food in the industrialized economy, in the global economy, we are actually running behind the um, fast food, processed food, junk food. That was not the story in agriculture society. But you will find that beginning of the 20th century, epidemics of goiter, phyllogra, very were evident. In urban areas, movement of people into the cash economy decreased the supply of protein, making it costlier. Poorer section of societies, urban areas, thus become victim of kwashiorkor. So these are the you can say if you want to study the ecology with epidemiology with respect to population and the context of ecology, then you have to go through also from in the human evolution. You have to understand how many evolutionary journey, what exactly happened during prehistoric time, agricultural society, industrial society, and now today we are having globalization. What we are taking today, putting what it is good, and we feel it is good for us. But traditionally, you will find that two, three things has changed today when you see with respect to Odisha. One is millet mission. Again, we are actually reversing. We are going back to our old heritage. Red and chutney by the Bhumis community people, which got the recent GI tag. So, like this way, you will go on exploring. You will find that how diet shapes human health, human growth and development, its way of living and everything. So, with this, I think that we have come to end of this particular block. Now this class is open for all the members who are in the line to have it, any query and clarifications is invited. Yes, please. This paper is very interesting. So you can choose a project proposal out of this by taking the dietary changing dietary habits. Earlier, you do not use this China salt. You can now have a project on when it was started. You take the data of two, three generations, the quantity, whatever this, where we are utilizing it. So noodles, for example, now it is replaced by momo. So when it was started in your locality, so give a cultural, anthropological, or nutritional study on this particular topic. That will also helpful for you to submit or come with a new project. Okay. So Pradyumna, Puspanjali, Samya, Smriti, you have any clarification with respect to this block? Time is now with us. We can have thorough discussion on this. Can any one of you will respond?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Smriti, have you got whatever I have already covered today?
Yes, sir. Some points are I can understand, but some are not, sir.
There are two perspectives. Look at actually when you talk about humans, for example, the terms like adaptation, plasticity, acclimatization, these are the terms are very similar, but they are not same. They are quite different. When you talk about adaptation, means it's a permanent change. But again, there you will find physical, physiological, genetic, and cultural adaptation or behavioral adaptation. But when you talk about plasticity, this is developmental change. Means, for example, a baby born, then after 1 year, you will find that you will have the early onset of your teeth. Then that will fall after certain years. Then you will have a 40 chalicia. Okay, so it is that there is something programmed. That is, you can say plastic developmental plasticity. So I have given you some example. Acclimatization, when you talk about now, it is weather is changing and it is very hot. Now you have come to a AC room, so you got immediate response. But there are seasonal, there are immediate responses, there are periodical change also. Let us someone is living in high altitude, come to low altitude. After living certain years, again he will back to his high altitude. Then that person will again took some time and revert back to his high altitude stress. But a plainland or a coastal person who moved to high altitude, he will take longer time. He is not having a genetic modification the way Tibetan Sherpas are having as far as the lung capacity is concerned, their chest dimensions, their hemoglobin carrying capacity is concerned. Okay, that is not with us. We will take longer time to accommodate, and once you will return back to this plain land, again when you will back to that area, we will have the similar issues. But for them, they will take little time. They will use less clothes. They can move freely than us. Okay, because we are all belong to the same species. That's why. And what is more important, you will find that the cultural mode of adaptation, the housing pattern of Tibetans, the why they prepared momo. Okay, momo is very popular in. So maida we never use in our diet. Most of the means you can say rituals, rites, you will find rice and rice derived products. But now we have seen wheat and wheat derived items that was there in the for high altitude. They steam it and they boil it because of oxygen, because of the scarcity of firewood. So they have devised various type of noodles, momos, and steamed type of things. But these are the things that you have to understand. And whenever you talk about one adaptation, it has both physiological, genetical, as well as behavioral and cultural adaptation, be it high altitude, be it your cold, be it your extreme temperatures. Okay, Smriti, it's all right.
Yes, sir.
Still, you have any doubt, you can ask. Pradyumna, I'm still waiting. If you have any questions or a query, you can ask me, or else we can wind up it here. Smriti, do you need any information or any support from my side?
Sir, actually, I just want to ask you about the project works.
Project where I have given you one that I will probably discuss your practical paper. Okay, it is in block 8. So there you will find that enumeration of nutritional status. Okay, so either if you do not have any equipments in your hand, then you can simply take that 24-hour recall method or weighing method. What are the food they are taking, food habits, dietary practices, derive the nutritional status, whether undernourished or overnourished, because malnutrition is not is a big problem. Earlier we are having means scarcity of food. Now today the problem is that excess eating. So this problem, this project you can develop in the line of various type of means nutrients available, or eating disorders you can say, or you can say nutritional deficiency disorders. So your epidemiology, uh, that unit is dedicated to that. Okay, so you have an introduction, you will have a review of literature. You can try to have this, the prevalence of malnutrition among the preschool children. That can be of reason XYZ. Then you can take, you can get the informations from secondary source, and but in anthropology it will be only consider, only we have a primary informations. But you can utilize that from Anganwadi workers, from the Asa Didi. So what is the birth weight? What is the mid upper arm circumference? Okay, what are the food given to them? What is the timing of the food? What is the amount of food? Derive the calorie, and these are all available. We are having one institute in Hyderabad, that is National Institute of Nutrition. So you can have a project according to your requirement, the time that is given to you, your facilities and the capabilities. You just frame a project out of that. Okay, simply you
Yes,
can
sir.
go for malnutrition project. Okay, no instrument will be required there. Simply you will have to go and ask the questions, observation, and go for some case studies. Okay, in your localities where you are staying now. If you are staying in Bhubaneswar, pick up some basti or some rural suburb areas where you will find population is homogeneous. Okay, there you will go to visit the Anganwadi centers, schools. What is the preschool childrens? You study on them, then they will be helpful for you. Okay.
Yes,
Anything
sir.
else? Anything else you want?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. So now we can close here. The class will be, I think, still half an hour is there, more than half an hour. But as there is no question, I am closing here. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
sir. Thank you,
Thank you.
sir.